Then you can come on down now.
It's 6 o'clock.
I need one of those.
We're going to call the meeting to order. If y'all would stand with me while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Miller, would you lead us in the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we first, Lord, we say we are thankful for this day. We ask you, Heavenly Father, continue, Lord, to bless this country that we live in. Then, Heavenly Father, we ask that you would give us the wisdom to make decisions tonight that, first of all, that you be pleased with if we look out the business for this city. We just thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be the stewards that we are. Bless in a mighty way. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question. I would like to take two claims and separate them from the complete docket and vote on them separately.
Okay.
Do I need to do that before we approve the agenda, or?
Yeah, which two claims do we want to vote on separately?
49236 and 49296.
49296. Okay. You want to put that in the...
What was it?
Same again.
49236 and 49296.
49236 and 49.
296.
Okay. You're going to put that in the form of a motion to approve this agenda?
Yeah, I move we approve the agenda with a modifying the claims dockets to exclude 49236 and 49296 and vote on those separately.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Okay, let's take up those two that have been pulled out and discuss those two docket numbers, 49236 and 49396. Would you like to?
It's 4296.
4296, got it.
What page is that on?
Those are going to be on page 6 of the public safety docket, page 5 and page 6. The first one is for $29,270 for the purchase of a 2022 Nissan Altima that we did not approve. We approved the purchase, let's see here, 4 Dodge Chargers, a Dodge Durango, a Ford F-150, and a Ram 1500. Second one is for the purchase of a 2022 Chevy Tahoe for $39,858 that we did not approve.
And so to address those two items.
Well, hold on, Mayor.
Go ahead.
The purchasing law is very clear right here.
Okay.
Anything has to be approved by the governing authority and made part of the minutes. And that's just simply not done.
So I think the city clerk was talked to before this was done. The vehicles were all ordered.
I'd like to make those part of the minutes.
Okay, sure. So the vehicles were ordered. The police department had a budgeted amount for police vehicles. The pickup trucks that they were trying to order were canceled. So they had to shift to other vehicles instead, but they were budgeted items as in the vehicle category, and they were bought under state contract laws.
The city attorney advised that we table this until he can get back and look at it. We can get him on the phone if you want to. It's a clear violation of the purchasing laws. You can't just choose and pick what you want. You're talking about an $8,000 difference on one and I think a $5,000 difference on another. It doesn't work like that. You don't, if we approve a Tahoe, you can't go buy a Mercedes-Benz. It doesn't work like that. You vote how you want to. It's very clear. I made it part of the record. Y'all vote how you want to.
Madam Clerk, I know you had looked it up and talked to some people, and you gave an opinion on it before we did that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. They were vehicles were budgeted for. The contracts were canceled due to not being able to find chips. You know how those go. And so they were being replaced by these two other items.
So you're telling me that if we say we're going to buy a tractor, right, and it's budgeted in a line item, we don't want that particular tractor, we can go buy a bush hog, and that's okay? Well,
a bush hog is not a tractor, but a tractor is a tractor. if you had to get a John Deere tractor, if we bid on a John Deere tractor, and you couldn't get a Deere, maybe you got a
Massey
Yeah,
Ferguson.
you-
Massey Ferguson.
That's just,
But-
I disagree with that.
And, well, when we had to get, the vehicles from Missouri Highway Patrol, that came in as a separate,
Yeah, those were used cars that had to be
But they
done, so
were-
that was different. We couldn't, those had to be approved because they're not on state contract. Does anybody think we're doing something we should not be doing? I think that's the big question. Are we doing something wrong? We're just
Well, in my
trying to get.
opinion, you're
the cars.
violating the state purchasing law. I'm not saying you do anything wrong. If you tell us you're gonna buy a Ford F-150, you get a Ford F-150, or you come back in front of the board and say you want a Tahoe, and we approve to get you a Tahoe.
Well,
That's
the
very clear.
problem is, if we had waited for the board meeting, we can't get a Tahoe because they're available one
That's
day and
just
not the next
that-
day.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Well,
That's
that's-
not accurate. That may be what your police chief tells you, but that's just not true.
I tend to believe him when he tells me something.
I know you do, but that's just not true.
I mean, what is the attorney at tonight?
He is on
vacation.
vacation tonight.
He asked if we table this issue, you can call him if you want to. He said he's welcome to take a call.
Yeah, he didn't talk to me about it, so I wasn't
Because I
expecting
emailed
that.
you, I emailed you about 11 o'clock, he didn't return my email.
Who did?
I emailed Miss Pam, and she forwarded it to you, and I never got a return email.
Yeah, she emailed it back to you and copied me.
I didn't get a copy of it.
Oh, well, she did email it back to you. I know that she did, so. Sorry you didn't get it, but I know it was sent.
I missed it.
Well, what do y'all want to do on this item?
I mean, I would like to get the city attorney's opinion on it. I mean, if there is any kind of potential gray area there.
Or do y'all
Or
want
to
to
get
just
something from
approve the purchase of those? If that's what y'all are thinking needs to be done.
Do we already have possession of the vehicles?
Chief, will you speak to that question?
If you allow me to speak on this. I don't control supply and demand.
I didn't say you
We
did.
allocated X number of dollars for police cars. Every other agency, yours included, has X number of dollars to purchase police cars. We purchased these vehicles under, number one, the guidelines of purchasing laws.
That's not true. I just showed it, and I got it highlighted if you want to take a look at it.
That's your opinion.
It's not my opinion, it's a law. I didn't write the law.
So when you approved that, all the other chiefs, because I talked to two other chiefs, every year they allocate X number of dollars. Olive Branch, when they have a pool of money for police cars, when they need a car, they go to Missouri under that statute and they purchase a car, as long as you stay within the budget, and we were under 50,000. Look, I hate that my cars got canceled. I've had 6 of the 7 cars canceled. But I had 24 hours on one and 48 hours on the other. I called the clerk. I said, are we within, the legal, because, I mean, I've been buying cars for over 15 years. You approved X number of dollars for police cars. I bought police cars. Simple. The Horn Lake, they have X number of dollars. He purchases what he can. When I give you a budget, state contract comes out October 1. We approve a budget September 15. So I project what I can purchase for the next year. They can't tell us anything because the law says the the contract year starts October 1. So when I present to you, that's a projection on what I can possibly purchase. As I told the mayor, supply and demand issues that we've had, moving forward, I need to not say I'm hoping to get this F-150 or I'm hoping to get this, and just purchase what I can under the operational guidelines of purchasing laws. I went above. I got 2 quotes. Not only are they're police vehicles that were on the contract, I went above that. I got you 2 quotes. That's all that's required. You approved me to purchase cars. I purchased police cars. And if somebody just picked up the phone and called me.
Who's driving the
this would have been
Tahoe?
I am.
Okay, so don't say you're purchasing police cars, you're purchasing your car, okay?
I'm a chief of police. I have to drive a police car,
I understand.
Chad.
I understand.
Look, you vote no on everything that I present. This is nothing new, and this board knows it.
Well, that's fine. You say that's your personal opinion.
No, that's fact. Everybody knows it. It's on YouTube. All anybody's got to do is look it up.
That's good. Well, thank you.
Everything that we do on the police department, you vote no. Because you've got some whatever ridiculous personal vendetta against
I
me.
have a personal, I don't even know you.
That's good, too.
Exactly.
And Alderman
You
Wicker,
can stare me down all you want to. I mean, you're
Alderman
just wrong on
Wicker,
that.
I was carbon copied on the email at 11:25 when Pam sent you the response to cwicker@DeSotoCountyMS.gov. Yep.
You purchased X number of dollars. I went above and got you 2 quotes. I did the best that I could do for the city. We can't get vehicles. The budget's about to end. I can't help it when drunk drivers run over cars with 30,000 miles on them, total them. That puts us even further back. So I've got to get what I can get. I'm on the list for Missouri to get anything that they possibly have. What I did was absolutely within the guidelines of the law. I went above and beyond and got you 2 quotes. Those vehicles were vehicles that were on the state contract list that have since been removed because you can't get them. And I was fortunate enough to find some.
Who's gonna be driving the Altima?
It will go to the detective.
Anybody else have questions on this item? If not, does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the docket of claims as published,
That'll be on those 2 items, since
to
we cut
include
them
the
out.
2 items that have been purchased.
I think we had separated these in the agenda, so it would be just on these 2 items for now, and then we'll get the rest of the agenda, or the rest of the docket separately.
Then my motion is that we accept the purchase of the 2 vehicles under the 2 docket numbers
Okay.
as mentioned.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote.
Alderwoman Ross.
Aye.
Alderman Piper.
Nay.
Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderwoman Lynch.
Aye.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Robinson.
Aye.
Alderman Wicker.
Nay.
And that motion passes. Next is to approve the other docket of claim numbers listed on your agenda.
Here, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Need a motion on the consent agenda.
Here, I'll make a motion to approve the
we gotta-
consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the
Everything
minutes.
there.
I missed the minutes. Let's do that first. Approve the minutes from the regular mayor and board meeting on June 7th.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from June 7th. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Now we're on the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next is the personnel docket.
Motion to approve the personnel docket. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, as y'all know, we received another $400,000 Brownsfield grant that Jill will be overseeing, along with the help from PPM Consultants. We need to approve to accept their contract for EPA Brownsfield grants consulting services, and for me to sign that contract, and then for Gia Matheny to be able to sign all task orders. And just to be clear, that PPM consulting fee will be paid out of the Brownsfield grant.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That
Just
motion,
for the record, Mayor, are those funds reimbursable funds, will they come directly from the grant?
Gia, would you answer that question? Are they reimbursable or will they
Are
come
they
directly?
reimbursable, or will they come directly from the grant? So we pay it on the front end, and then we get, after the paperwork is sent forward, then we get, okay.
And within the Brownsfield grant, aren't we getting $40,000 the city will get to reimburse for your time spent over the course of it?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to add that in there as
We
well.
want to make sure that we understand that, so when we see the budget going
Yeah,
one
we'll
way,
spend the money, it'll come back.
you know, that won't be because of overspending, just because of the process, because that was not listed in the budget.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you. Next is item 10, to proclaim June 26, 2022 as Reverend Wesley Massey Day.
So move.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is item 11, request to waive the $400 fireworks permit fees for the City of Hernando fireworks for the Wesley Meadows fireworks scheduled for July 2nd and the Hernando High School homecoming fireworks.
Make a motion to approve, and this has been, with the fire chief recommendation also.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Item 12 is the request for approval of an amendment. Would you like to come up and start with those?
Yes, sir. Case number PL 1605. This was the request to add the use of a mini storage to the Lee Summit PUD. The applicant did contact us in a request to table the item until the July 5th, 2022 meeting. He's working with an architect and a revised site plan for his submittal and wanted a little bit more time. And this was advertised as a public hearing, so the request is to table this until 6 o'clock on July 5th, 2022.
And I think we may have some citizens who are interested in that who are going to be out of town on July 5th because it's around a holiday. So I think one of the alder persons had asked that we do it at the meeting after that.
I was wondering if we could table it to the 19th meeting,
Okay.
just because it's a holiday week, and a lot of people are going to be off on the 4th. Is that okay with you? Thank you.
Is that a motion? Table to the 19th?
Yes, I make a motion to table the PL 1605 request for approval. I don't need to read the whole thing, do I? To move that meeting to July 19th.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And that motion passes. We'll move on to item 13.
Yes, sir. This is project number PL 1604. This request was carried over from the May 17th meeting to give the board a little bit more time to consider the proposed ordinance change. The request is to amend the list of conditional uses within the AR district to add an accessory dwelling unit to that list. The applicant is listed as Todd Steele with AERC, and he's representing a family on Green Tea Road that wants to do one of these, and so that's his role in this. The proposed definition of accessory dwelling unit is in your staff report, but generally speaking, it's a second home, smaller, on the lot, and it's currently allowed in C1, C2, and C3 zoning districts. And the way this proposal is written, the AR zoning designation in their conditional use, this would carry over for the rest of the residential uses. So it does say AR, but that does include R20, R10, R30, all the rest of the residential uses. It would carry over. Like I said, this proposal is to list it as a conditional use, so any of these types of uses would need to come back before the Planning Commission for an approval, and in that approval would be a time limit, any conditions the Planning Commission that they saw fit, and to include, I think there was some discussion about a rental, and that can be addressed in that setting. Some of the proposals staff saw as something the board may want to consider in your proposed motion to approve is the setback of these accessory dwelling units. And the proposal reads to have these accessory dwelling units situated in a way where it meets the setback of the home. So if it's a AR zone piece of property, the side setback is 15 feet. And so if you want to do a secondary dwelling unit, we'd request that the 15 feet be met also, so they're not packed up against the property line. The property vested in a single ownership clause would prohibit someone from selling that dwelling on that same piece of property. And then the exterior appearance of this dwelling unit is compatible with the character of the residences in the neighborhood. And that could really be addressed, I feel, when it comes back for that conditional use hearing. They provide renderings and the Planning Commission could see if they feel it is compatible. And there are proposed motions to approve, deny, or table in your staff report. And the applicant, Todd Steele, is here to address his specific use, and I'm available for any questions.
Todd, did you want to speak?
Spoke at the last
Does anybody on the board, does anybody have questions? I know we went over it during the last meeting, and y'all expressed concerns that I think were addressed and talked about at the planning commission meeting.
I mean, the biggest concern was that everybody was going to be able to build an extra building on their property and could rent it or
With
whatever.
a conditional use, though, correct?
That's correct. Each zoning district would be required to come back to the planning commission for that conditional use, but you are correct. The AR designation would carry for all of the rest of them.
Right. And that was, I think, quite a few folks' concerns.
Is there anyone here to speak for or against this? Yes, sir, Mr. Reedy?
I don't want to speak, I've just got a bunch of clients, and I see, I'm sorry, but I don't like to miss in other things, right? But I see that his address is Green Tea, and I got a bunch of clients in Green Tea. So would your proposal, we're talking about an amendment that's not just for this is going to affect everything.
That's right.
So would that amendment overrule subdivision covenants?
Would you speak to that, Austin?
The subdivision covenants would rule. We just can't enforce them, but this would not overrule
Sure,
that.
that's right. So if the subdivision covenants say you can't have two houses on a lot, it doesn't matter which are.
That's right.
Which kind of permits you grant.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure, but I thought I knew the answer, but I just want to
Okay.
hear it from all sides.
Anybody else? Anybody else on the board have any comments or a motion?
I think the only other concern I've heard expressed is just like, if you have one of these units, and this may be addressed in here somewhere, if you have one of these units and you decide, if you have like an elderly, a mother-in-law that passed away or something like that, could you turn it into an Airbnb or something like that and have people kind of coming and going and that sort of thing? Would that be, I mean, that's going to be something that's
I do understand
allowed,
that
correct?
concern. I think with this being a conditional use, these will be heard on a case-by-case basis. And the planning commission has the power to say it's for this person for 1 year, and you got to come back at the end of that year. So I think that would help alleviate a little bit of that concern. But it would take some eyes to kind of make sure that person, and some follow-up at the end of that year to keep up with these.
And then who would necessarily be the enforcement of that if that homeowner didn't, if you said, hey, you got to come back in a year, and then they just never show up, like, would that be up to code enforcement to?
It'd ultimately be us.
It'd be the same thing we have on conditional use now, Alderman. I mean, it's the same thing. Conditional use, I mean, it's got a specific time limit on it. The enforcement level would not change. And if there'll be a concern, then they can always address that when they make the application before the planning commission. And they can put any kind of stipulation in that they want to, because there again, it's conditional use. All these concerns that people, we can always have a concern, we might say, somebody might be biased about gay and lesbian, that you might not have a gay and lesbian couple staying in the house, in the back of the house, those concerns that people have. I mean, so, I think we can't get down in the weeds with some of this stuff.
I always think it's good to ask questions if you have.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's
get
what I'm saying,
answers.
but they will be addressed, those concerns will be addressed during the application process between, at the planning commission. My understanding, I like all the rest of them.
Any other questions or a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of an amendment to the text of the zoning ordinance to add an accessory dwelling unit to the list of conditional uses in the AR agricultural residential district with the following additional standards, items 1 and 2.
Second.
A motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote.
Alderwoman Ross,
Nay.
Alderman Piper.
Aye.
Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderwoman Lynch.
Aye.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Robinson.
Aye.
Alderman Wicker.
No.
And the motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to item 14, PL 1632, the consideration of amendments to our zoning text concerning medical cannabis.
Yes, sir. Project number 1632, just as you mentioned, The request is to add the definitions and uses as specified in your staff report. And this has been in front of you before as a proposal to take to the committee. And the committee did meet and came up with the following guidelines that I've mentioned, but I'll reread for the record tonight. To follow all the state guidelines regarding the licensure and setback requirements for all facilities. Prohibit all medical cannabis facilities from the historic district and also 500 feet from the courthouse, measured parcel line to parcel line. Amend the fee chart to adopt a $1,000 business license fee. The definitions, which are on the second page of your staff report, and these are straight out of the state law, with the additions as the committee saw fit, and I'll go over those here in just a second. And there's a use chart in your staff report that shows where these are proposed to go and how they're going to go, either permitted by right, by conditional use, or not permitted at all. On the hours of operation for dispensary, that was clarified from our last meeting that it was just for a dispensary from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then all the language about the distance from a courthouse and the prohibition in the historic district is included in those definitions. I did take this to the Planning Commission on the 14th of this month, and there was lots of discussion, mainly concerning with, there was almost a proposal to increase the distance from schools from 1,000 to 2,000, but the commission felt the state law was already restrictive enough, and so they've left it as is. And there was a question about the business license fee being $1,000, as Alderman Miller had last time, and as I mentioned, most of the business licenses in Hernando are relatively lower than this. There are some that are about the $1,000, like Kroger and Walmart, but the committee's recommendation was that there's a lot of uncertainty of the amount of city services that will be required to enforce this ordinance. With police, and then even with my department, there's a bit of uncertainty of that state law, of the 1,000-foot distance. Is that going to be us checking these and regulating between each other and then going back and forth with the state? Is something that's yet to be addressed because the licenses are not active. So just to give you a little background of where that $1,000 came from, that was the thought process that went into it. As I said, the Planning Commission did hear it, and they recommended unanimously for approval as written in your staff report tonight. And we did consult with the city attorney because the licenses will be issued on July 1st, and we've expedited this ordinance to get out in front of that. And so we've got language in your staff report with the unanimous vote, if that's what y'all are proposing to do, language in there that would make this ordinance enacted immediately, so that we would be ready for licenses and get ahead of it with business license issuance. As I said, the use chart on the third page of your staff report gives an idea of where these facilities will be going and per zoning district. The committee did recommend to add the conditional use designation to C1, C2, and C3 to provide an additional layer of review for Planning Commission. And these uses will be incorporated into the zoning text. You know, if it says permitted by right in C1, that will be a use in the C1 zoning chart, just to give you an idea what it's going to look like. I did attach a map of what this 500-foot boundary around the courthouse will look like. And then I also included the historic districts of where these parcels are, to give you an idea of where everything is. And then the last few pages of your staff report are the Attorney General's opinion that kind of triggered this whole discussion tonight of us regulating time, place, and manner. I know there's some folks here to speak about this tonight, and I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions right off the bat?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you
Okay, okay, I know we talked about the time last time you brought it up, and I don't have a problem with the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The way it reads kind of like, it says shall be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But really, that's saying, to me, that reads like they have to be open those hours. But really what we want is that they can't be open before 9 or after 9.
The allowable hours?
Yes.
I see.
Just a little picky thing, sorry. But
That's a good point. You know, I don't think, liquor stores are mandated to be open, but we don't think we want to mandate
right.
that they have to be open.
We just don't want them
hours.
open outside of those hours.
I see. I can add the word allowable hours of operation shall be 9
Okay.
a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's all.
I would just add additionally on the business license fee, part of this is that you have such a great range of what these facilities could be. While you may have a dispensary that's in a shopping center and it's 3,000 or 2,000 square feet, you may have a research facility that's attached to a growing facility that's 40,000 square feet. So you really have such a wide range of what these buildings and facilities could be. That would be an additional, there's some additional, workload there for our folks.
So you're saying a facility that got a larger size facility versus a smaller size facility still pay $1,000? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying because of the diversified sizes, because you have so many different sized facilities, it's not like you just have, I'm trying to think of the best example. What is the business license fee for like a dog groomer or something like that? I mean,
Probably $30, $40.
right, I mean, that's never gonna be in a 40,000 square foot building, most likely. So it would have a smaller license fee, most likely.
But my point is, the way you were making your example, you were saying you got this side building which is smaller, then you got another side building which is larger, but both of them gonna pay the same $1,000 fee.
Yes, sir.
This small building ain't gonna have as much activity or even require as much city attention as this larger building, but yet and still, I'm being penalized with a $1,000 fee. And if I'm not mistaken, if we look at, we use Kroger and Walmart and places like that, based upon square footage of those buildings, the fees change, am I correct?
I think it's
It's
just
based on
based on number of
employees?
employees.
Well, okay, it's even different because employees on this, I'm through with it anyway,
And quite frankly, I'm not hung up on the $1,000 because if we're being realistic, we may have room to put 8 of these in the city. It's going to be $8,000. So it's not like we're going to make a bunch of money off of it.
I just
That's
don't
not
want,
something
I don't want
I'd
nobody to
like
come back and file something against this city saying that we put undue fees, because it is a stipulation in there that you got to justify your fees as outside the normal of other fees. And I won't have to spend attorney fees to justify that we're just making $8,000. We had to spend, and have to give our attorney $4,000 to defend us. That's my point. That's the only reason I brought it up. Because they said, quite frankly, in there about the fee, that you must, if it's out the range of the other fees, you got to justify why you're doing that. And if somebody take you to court, we're gonna pay more in attorney fees than we're gonna get, like you said, for the fees that we get for the permit fee. Just see it's common sense. Whatever the board says, I'm gonna agree with you.
Mayor, do we need?
Go ahead.
Nope.
Anyone from the public like to speak? Mr. Reedy, I know you're wanting to speak on this. You're just going to watch.
Unless I need to.
Okay. Is there anybody else to speak for or against this ordinance change? Okay. Any other?
Exactly. It's going to be made available for us to see before it's voted on or approved, going through right now.
Depending on the language of the motion, there's proposed language in here to enact it where it's effective immediately.
It will be effective immediately.
It was a unanimous vote.
Yes, sir.
I can hand you my copy if you want to look at it. Yeah, seriously, you're welcome to it. Yep, there you go.
And if we're making a motion, does it need to include this language in the email from our city attorney? That was included in our
Also, will
packet.
you answer that question?
Yes, sir. If you want this to become effective tonight, to get out in front of those July 1st licenses, that language would be required.
Do I have a motion?
Is it possible to give him a chance, like, to move it down and vote on it a little bit, let him have a chance to?
Sure. Did you want to
read
have
it?
time to read it and then speak on it before the board adopts?
Since we have some other items.
You okay? Okay. He says he's okay, Alderman Lynch. Anybody have a motion?
I make a motion, man. Y'all talk, I thought y'all ready to go. I make a motion to approve, with the proposed definition except, that the one on the medical cannabis dispensary be changed to be allowable hour versus shall. I think that's correct language?
Yes, sir.
With everything else. And also, make a, within that motion, that this be for immediately according to the statute and the language already included, that they be included into the motion.
Second.
Motion.
The second from Alderman Piper. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes unanimously and will take effect immediately. Okay, next, Joe Frank, these are your items. If you'd like to come up. I'll be giving a preamble while he's coming up. This board long ago approved a list of projects that we wanted to apply for ARPA match money for. These next two items were on that list of things the board had agreed to apply for. And these two are already designed and approved by DEQ and the State Health Department. They're pretty critical. And we're hearing that the rules for the ARPA match will be available July 1st. They'll probably start taking applications in August and probably award the matching grants in November. So my thought process here was if we advertise these and put in the bid that the bids are good for 120 days, we'll get them back maybe around the 1st of August. Then we have actual numbers to hand in to for our request for matching. And as soon as we get awarded the grant, then we award the contractor's bids. So that way we're not wasting any time, and we'll have more accurate numbers to apply for the matching grant with, because we'll have real bids. So that was kind of the thought process. And Joe, would you kind of talk a little bit about what the item 15, the water plant upgrades are going to be and what they will do for us?
Okay.
And the expected timeline once the bid is awarded?
Okay. So basically, we know that the plant is running at pretty high capacity right now, and dealing with the health department on that. They're kind of recommending that one thing that will really help us is to be able to run each well on its own, within its own aerator into the tank, ground storage tank. So that sounds like a basic recommendation to do that, but of course, in doing that, that makes every component in the plant too small, so it's got to be upgraded, all the controls, chlorine system, the soda ash system, bigger tank. That means they got to enlarge the house, do some additional piping out there, so it involves, a good many things that need to be changed when you try to upgrade one component. And kind of provide in the future for another ground storage tank that'll be there in the future. Kind of set everything up for that too.
Once we award the bids, how long will that construction take to be completed?
Which it depends on how long it takes to get the components, but I would say 6 months.
So once we get these upgrades done, if we just have the current customers that are using that water now, do you know what percentage capacity we would be at?
I'm thinking it's going to put us back down under 50%, probably down to 40%.
Okay, good.
What are we at right now on that plant?
We were at 93% in the August report from the health department. And since then, we've added 83 homes to the system. So we're probably over 93%.
So essentially, it's doubling the capacity of the plant.
Yeah, it's going to come close to it with some other things we're going to do.
Go ahead and talk, the second one goes in with this, so in this discussion, talk about what you're doing on the second project as well.
Okay. The second project's out on Holly Springs Road. Let's see, you know where Fieldbrook subdivision is on Holly Springs Road. After you leave Fieldbrook and head east, we only have a 3-inch line there. And right there where the new road going across Coldwater Bottom connects to Johnson Malone Road, we rearranged that piping system in there with the water that's coming out of the Lauder Road water plant. So if we replace that 3-inch line with a bigger line going across there, that will improve the amount of flow we can get out of the Lauder Road plant into the whole system, which will reduce the amount of flow we have to have out of the Jaybird plant. So
that makes our capacity of the Jaybird plant even better.
we got to get more water out of the Jaybird, more water out of the Lauder Road plant than we're getting out of it to help the whole system.
And correct me if I'm misstating, but in layman's terms, the way I understood it, the Jaybird plant's operating at a higher pressure or maybe a higher elevation than the Lauder plant. So this water's always flowing this way. Lauder Road can't come back this way.
That's right.
So if we can get a bigger pipe going to Lauder Road and then valve off the Jaybird plant to Fieldbrook, then Fieldbrook will definitely be all coming off of Lauder Road and not using it. Then the cross connect will be there if we have an emergency and need to open it.
What are we looking like on water? I mean, on cost for just those two things?
You're looking at $800,000 on the plant, probably. When I started on the Holly Springs Road water line, it was a $200,000 project. Now it's $300,000 probably.
It'll probably be in the millions.
So
about $3
But we're
million.
going to take them, we're voting on them one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are going to vote.
I just kind of wanted to know, because I know when we had discussed this, when the ARPA funds were coming in, that you were looking at $1 million needed to upgrade the Jaybird plant. So it's well above that now, I'm sure.
I haven't done an estimate lately, but
I think it was about $1 million
I wouldn't
at
doubt
that time.
it.
It was last year.
That's why I thought it was so important that we get actual bids before we apply for the ARPA grant match. We apply for $800,000, and then it's $1.2 million we need for the match, then we've lost a lot of money.
Right.
Isn't there some kind of a benefit to having these shovel-ready?
Yes, shovel-ready puts you at the top of the list. Alderman Miller and I and Gia went and listened to the head of DEQ speak down in Cleveland the other day, and he made it very clear that having shovel-ready projects was going to put you at the top of the list.
All right.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
That was item 15 for the advertising for bids for Jaybird Water Plant upgrades. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 16 was advertised for the bids for the Holly Springs Road water line that he just discussed.
There's one thing I would say there is just because that's in the county, I mean, is there any opportunity for us to partner with them in some kind of way? Is a bigger water line going to help them from a developmental standpoint, or is that?
The county doesn't do water and sewer at all. There's
I understand
probably
that.
zero opportunities.
I understand that. Just wanted to get it, just wanted to ask the question. You never know.
Every once in a while, we can partner with them on roads, though, so let's keep that in mind.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve, to advertise for bids for the Jaybird water plant upgrades.
Second.
For the Holly Springs Road water line.
Yeah, Holly Springs Road, sorry.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Now, to keep us moving forward, we need to authorize Joe Frank to start designing the new elevated water tank and plant that we'll need for current houses up in the northern part of the city, current businesses, and future businesses.
Do you have a location for that water tower?
When you're saying northern.
I will say I'm negotiating right now with the 80 acres that's being annexed into the city and Madison Lakes, and I've asked each of them to give us 2 acres, and Joe Frank can talk from there.
Okay. So one of them is going to be at the intersection out there by your road and Getwell Road. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of growth out there, and the other one's going to be closer to the Madison Lakes development if they're saying they're going to have 1,000 units there.
So So this is for 2 water plants?
One water plant, one elevated tank.
Just so everyone understands this, because I didn't used to understand it, the water plants where we're actually pumping the water out of the ground and storing some of it at ground level, then it's pumped over to an elevated tank, and separating those will give us more of a balanced system.
That's correct. It's stationed elevated tanks around, just like they are in town. We got tanks around town. During the night, the tanks fill up with water. The people are not using the water, and so that we have water in reserve in the areas where we want water, that we're going to, need water. So obviously, the interchange out there in Getwell Road is going to need some water, more water than we have out there today, for sure.
So
And
is
the
that
other
going to take
interchange.
care of the folks that we had annexed in and they don't have city water yet, like years ago? Out there, like at, what is it, Byhalia and Getwell, not the corner, but,
It'll get us a plant there, that gets us closer, then we can work on
Tie-
funding lines to tie them in.
right, like it's Fox something over there, aren't they? They-
Foxwood Circle?
Isn't it?
I don't know,
I mean,
but that's over there.
I mean, it is over there, but
I think
aren't
I
several
think
folks
most
over
of
there
them-
say that they were annexed in years ago and they don't have city water?
There's a few of them along Getwell Road who are still on wells.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, so it's gonna eventually be able to take those folks in.
Yeah, I mean, we have a line all the way up Getwell Road. I can't think of where we don't have a line, and we have some lines that are too small for a lot of development, but,
Most of the people complaining about not having services are sewer, that we don't have to them yet,
Okay,
or water.
okay, I was just wondering
sewer
exactly,
complaints, the water.
yeah. I wasn't sure it was one or the other or both.
Make a motion when,
But is a motion already on the
You
floor?
was about to do a motion, go ahead, Alderman.
No, I want to make sure that we don't lose sight, if we go on and do this, design and everything. And Mayor used the words curbing in future, that we want to make sure that these future, endeavors pay their fair share if we do
Yes.
this, because when it get down to the point in time, if they ain't, then I'm be looking at change back on the design, that they ain't gonna be getting nothing free. When they gonna be required, if they develop, they gonna be required, they'll be required by our ordinance and statute and everything to put in some water and stuff, ain't that right, Joe Frank? But if we already done did it, then they ain't required to do nothing.
Right.
That's the future, I wanna make sure that we don't get bid on that.
Well, we've talked to the developer out there.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that's why
At
I
Gibble
wanna make
Road.
sure that we don't get so far ahead of the game that they bag up and wait on us.
Right, I agree with you.
But that appears what's happening now. 'Cause we were close to making this happen. Correct? Y'all aware that we was close?
I am.
Huh?
I am.
We was close. And I don't want to allow this to put us further away from it. I'm all for the design and everything like that when we get,
Point taken, and I agree with you.
yeah, okay.
Here, I make the motion to authorize Joe Frank Lauderdale to design a new elevated water tower or water tanking plant.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, one of the other items on the list the board approved for ARPA match was Dogwood Hollow Sewer, and we're probably going to have to buy a little bit of easement from Dion Gerber. So we need to authorize Joe Frank to get an appraisal for the sewer line easement we'll need there.
It's amazing, we haven't them out and got to pay, and got to buy, easement rights. It's really amazing.
Yep.
Ain't this amazing to y'all too? The beneficiaries won't even give it up, but it's making them money. I wonder, and this is the United States too. Never made me.
It's all about money, everything's about money. You know that now, right?
It shouldn't be a whole lot of money though, so.
So this doesn't have anything to do with those like little lagoons there that are on.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it do.
I'm saying that's not what we're appraising though.
No, we're not. We're gonna be
Okay.
appraising some, just to the south of there's a huge parcel owned by the Gerbers, and it would run along the northern border of that parcel over to the big lift station you see on Mackingville.
Yep.
So it would take those two lagoons completely out of service. We put a little lift station there where one of them is, and pump it on over.
And then
We'd have to go through the
what
Gerber
could we
property
do?
to do it.
And then what could we do with those lagoons?
No,
once-
not, this one, I'm finna ask this question now,
Yeah,
cause
go ahead.
we do not own the lagoons.
We do not. The state has them.
And we're not doing, along with Miller on the board, we're not doing no cleanup on the lagoon, cause it's up in the money. Getting to what you finna, I think we're going the same way.
Well, I mean, they're a nuisance. I mean, I'll be honest.
they're
I mean, that's
again-
my ward, but they're a nuisance. Like the people that have to
They're
live beside them, they're
You
terrible.
know how much it costs to clean up a lagoon?
I do not. You'll have to educate me on that.
Give him a price, Joe Frank, of cleaning up a lagoon.
So what the goal will be, and
That's state-owned property.
I started a conversation with the guy from Secretary of State. So right now, the legalities are the Secretary of State's office, and the state of Mississippi owns those now because they took them back for taxes. They want to give them to us.
Sure they do.
And I said, we don't want them. So we're going to try to get Secretary of State's office and DEQ to work together so they can get them cleaned up. So that's the goal right there. But in the meantime, we can still be hooking in there
Oh, yeah, I don't have no
and
problem
moving
with
the sewer out of Dogwood Hollow. Then one
So
day,
what
if
was
they
the-
do get cleaned up, we'll have a lift station on one of those lots probably, but the other one could literally be turned into a sellable lot,
That
Yikes.
qualify for a Brownsfield?
probably through the Brownsfield Department, yeah. And DEQ wants stuff like that cleaned up. The state of Mississippi wants it off of their non-performing tax rolls, so we'll probably find some way to make that part happen as well.
So what would a cleanup cost on something like that be? I'm curious to know now that.
If you're
we got
hauling the
that.
sludge out and everything, which is what you have to do, it's, I don't know.
You know what it costs to clean up the other lagoons we had, it's well over $1 million.
Yeah, we spent, I think, $1.6 million cleaning up the other lagoons, but they were big,
Yeah, they were a lot bigger. But
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's not a job.
That was also, been a while.
Well, and I asked from a,
Yep.
and I asked from a standpoint of like, when those folks call and, they're wanting to know,
What we're
the
doing.
more information I have, the more I can, share with them, hey, this is what we're up against, and this is what we can do, what we can't do.
I told them it's state-owned too. They need to call their state officials.
I can do that.
And what I did learn, I learned a hard lesson, you can't just fill them in with dirt, you have to haul the stuff away
You gotta be
first,
hauling, then
and that hauling's
a
expensive.
cover.
You have to
place
treat it
over.
after that.
Yeah, you got to cover and everything.
So,
Okay.
all right. Could I have a motion to authorize appraisal of property for Dogwood Sewer?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, Joe Frank, this is you too. Joe brought me a letter the other day to sign to give a will serve letter to the Timber Oak subdivision for water and sewer. I was reluctant to do that at the moment because we're talking about the Jaybird Water Plant being at 93% capacity back in August, and we've added 83 houses to it since then. And so I certainly didn't want to do that without a big discussion and the board being involved.
Didn't we recently or currently having some issues with water pressure on that side of town? Or?
We did, but I will say those were unrelated. We found we've been having trouble for 5 or 6 weeks north of Holly Springs, and during somebody hit one of our major lines, and it appears that somebody shut a valve, and it never got reopened. We opened it yesterday, and suddenly everybody north of Holly Springs has water again. That was just kind of a fluke. Nobody knew that valve was shut. So that's all back to normal. We were showing, some guy was sent me a picture of 64 pounds of pressure today, so that's been solved. But we still have that whole issue of the health department saying we're at 93% capacity back in August. So I want to make sure that, I was not going to sign that letter without board authorization, I'll tell you that.
Ardell, what is your professional opinion about adding 76 more houses to that line with 93% capacity? Is that going to be an issue?
Really could be an issue. Before you voted to improve the water plant,
Well,
the The issue not really is not, I mean, they're sitting right next to the water plant.
What's the timing on that? Like, when we're able to upgrade and when when everything's gonna be hooked up and ready to roll?
I think he said 6 months, didn't
6 months after.
At least sometime next year.
he? 6 months after award of contract.
Gotta get the money.
There's
money
more
from that.
houses being developed. He has a development going in over on Jaybird, which is gonna tie into that same plant.
This one we're talking about.
Oh, I thought it was called something else.
The older name was Timber Oaks, it was already taken.
Did you want to come speak to it?
I thought
Yeah.
it was Bailey Meadows.
Okay. We all
Don't confuse me.
It is the one
On
on
the wrong
Jaybird,
name.
due south of the water plant.
So, yeah,
Well, I mean, there's,
yeah. So when we recorded it at DeSoto County, it was Timber Oaks, and then somebody recorded our name before we could record the final plat. So it's now called Bailey Meadows. We do
Well, all
have
right.
76 lots. As you mentioned, we are right next to the water tower. Just talking about timeline, we're still a good 2 months out from being final platted. It'll take a couple of years to build those houses out. I'm not sure how long it'll take to do the water improvements on the water tower, but I'm sure
Not
that
that long.
When do you think you'll build your first house and have it occupied using water?
it would take 6 months to build a house, so we're still 2 months out, so about 8 months
So it could,
before the first house could really tie on.
yeah, so you'd be adding a few houses before we got done, probably,
Probably, yes, sir.
but not all 76.
No, sir.
Would it be, I'm just throwing ideas out, this just popped in my head.
Limited.
Where we say that, we could provide for 10 houses now and provide for all of them when our upgrades were done. Something of that nature.
Can I make it, since he said you're a couple months out anyway, right?
From final plat, as far as completion of construction, we tied in our sewer today. We're curbing, we're set up to asphalt. Really, my next lengthy process is just going through the final plat process, which is why I'm here to get the will serve letter, because we're ready to file for that.
And you've got to have a will serve letter
To
for final
record,
plat.
yes, sir. And again, we are surrounded, our property is surrounded by the city of Hernando. It's kind of an odd piece of property. We're in the county, but we're completely surrounded by the city of Hernando. So ultimately, I think you guys would annex that.
Not really, not me.
No.
I have talked about it because I
not-
think it only makes sense.
No, I don't. How many
Why?
streets you gonna have in there? Let me finna tell you why. How many
All right.
streets you gonna have in there?
Well, it's one street
talk to
with a
me.
cove.
And how much asphalt's in there?
Greg, how much asphalt's in there?
Or how much will it cost?
How much
you?
gonna cost y'all, how much it gonna cost y'all to do those asphalt?
Well over 100,000 for.
Well, over
this.
$100,000. We're not gonna get no $100,000 for taxes out those houses.
You gotta buy police cars for it too now.
Yeah, and fire protection. So I don't want you. You'll be on the island by yourself.
I don't think it's part of water.
Right, but we're giving them city water and sewer.
No, we ain't giving nothing. We gonna pay, they gonna pay for it.
So
Yeah.
before your
Yeah.
first house is
And they gonna pay
completed, 6
more,
months.
they gonna pay for more water and
It takes
sewer
typically
than the
5
person in the
to
city pay for.
Just the tap fee.
Is a possibility exist that we can wait to make sure we got the ARPA funds together before we approve this? I mean, I know that may hold them up a minute.
And that's really gonna hurt me, I'll be honest with you. I've got a subdivision we've worked on for a while. And to have a vacant piece of ground sitting there is gonna start looking bad. I can get houses out there, get people in the community, and we can really turn this thing around and get some green grass growing.
Plus,
rather
every
than
time
a
it
vacant
rains,
subdivision.
it's flooding the lake across the road, making it muddy and making things worse, correct?
That's right.
So.
In Terra Lakes.
I'm going to look to our planner, who used to be with the county, who knows how plats are filed at the county and what it takes. If we were to, I'm just going to make this up, just sign a letter saying we will provide sewer and water to this development. Right now, we will supply for 10 houses. Once the plant's upgraded, we will supply the other 66, but we will supply. Would that be a letter the county would take to give him his final plat?
I'll say I've never seen one worded like that. So I don't speak for them, but typically it's you're in or you're out with the final plat that's reflected. And the timeline that he's talking about is he can't go to the planning commission board or board supervisors meeting for that approval to even ask to get approved without that letter. And so,
Well, you know, and I'm gonna throw this, if we give a will serve letter tonight, and 8 months from now, we reach capacity, we're gonna have to cut off anyway, regardless what the letter said.
What's that, how's that process work? Do we just turn off citizens or
No,
turn them off first? Or
we'll stop,
stop serving them water?
yeah. If we have reached capacity, you know, they hadn't hooked on yet, but we have gave a real serve, but if we get to the point in time, say we done did 56 houses, I'm just using a number, and we can't get number 57 because of capacity, the state, health department cut us off. We can't do nothing. But try to expedite what we are doing back in item 15 and 16.
How many do you plan on starting the first 12 months?
All of them.
So we're going to go back to Joe and ask again, not only do you think we have the capacity to serve them, but by serving them, would we diminish any service to current customers? Or put them at risk, in your professional opinion?
That's a hard question to answer, but I think timetable-wise, in these projects that you've approved, I don't see any problem with it. Unless something in the plant now breaks, or, you know, how we have a problem with something that, you know, needs repair, needs upgrading, just like anything else, but.
All right, if we were at 93% last August, and we've added 83 houses since, and we're not at max capacity? I'm just saying, what, would it go up a couple of percent? At 76 more homes? What are we up to, like maybe 94 now with the 83 that were built in the last 10 months?
It's hard to say
11 months?
How they would rate, rate that.
Right.
I don't think it's not so much, looking at the plan, it's not so much as a number of customers. It's the way that we produce water from the plant into the system. That's the issue. It's not the amount of water that we possibly can get out of the plant. It's just the way the plant's designed, how we're getting it out of the plant. So, but we have other connections in the city that allows us to send water into the system to help any situation that we have at the Jaybird plant or the Laurel Road plant.
Are you comfortable
or
with
the
doing
city
this?
plant.
Are you comfortable with doing this?
I'm okay with it, as far as that. I mean,
Okay. Any other questions, or I think I.
as long as we keep going with our, plan to make some connections we need to make this year and move on with our, these two projects.
I mean, the only thing holding us back is we're waiting for the match, correct?
Well, and this is my opinion, but y'all have to vote on it, but in my opinion, let's just say the world ended and we didn't get the match. I feel like we're going to use our current ARPA money to fund it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the project.
Okay,
I agree with that part.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion when discussion's done.
Any more discussion? Go ahead.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor of Hernando to sign a will serve letter for Timber Oak subdivision
Could you
utilities.
change it?
Bailey Meadows.
Bailey Meadows.
Bailey Meadows.
AKA Bailey Meadows.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes.
Motion to approve the utility docket.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I didn't get
Well,
one.
I didn't get a
I didn't get
utility
any.
docket.
We ain't got nothing to do.
There we go. Well, we approved it.
All right, and so that passed, and item 22 is to recess. I want to make sure the public hears this. We're going to recess this meeting until Friday, June 24th at 9 a.m. for a Zoom meeting. We're probably going to be down in the conference room downstairs. We'll have someone stationed here if people come here to bring them down. Usually people don't show up for those, but this is going to be to discuss our redistricting. We hired a professional. That professional will present a couple of plans to us. We'll discuss it. We will not be adopting it at that meeting. It's just a good public work session. So that meeting is open to the public at 9 a.m. on June 24th. Can I have a motion to recess this meeting until then? Yes, Alderman Miller.
Will we have something to look at prior to Friday?
Madam Clerk, will you check and have him send anything he does have to us? I don't know the answer to that, but if he has something, we'll try to get it.
Asking, you know, that's all.
We'll try to get
I got some information with some data.
I thought he already emailed us some stuff.
He sent us one thing that I think him and Alderman Robinson spoke, and there was another one sent out. but-
Yeah, with some numbers on, I was just
I've
asking.
got one thing I'll send you.
And we'll get him to send anything he's going to be presenting. ahead of time.
That's what I thought was
Yeah.
gonna be presented.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. The motion passes. We are recessed until 9 a.m. this Friday.
Mayor, real quick, I want to give a special shout out to Kristen. We found out yesterday at BOAM last week, she was recognized as Building Inspector of the Year for the state of Mississippi.
We will put that on the record in our minutes. Thank you for that. And congratulations.
Also, since we